to the NXT Podcast, your home for weekly NXT reviews and insight.
The beautiful part of NXT is that when one dream ends, another dream begins.
Find all of your NXT news, recaps, and analysis right here. So with that being said, we only have one question for you.
Are you ready?
We thought so. Let's get the show started right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NXT Podcast. Hi, I'm your host. My name's Zach. I'm your host each and every week here on the NXT Podcast. Obviously, I'm talking about NXT, which is obviously the hottest thing going right now, the thing everybody's talking about. I'm not yelling into a void with this show at all. Big stuff happening. Can't stress that enough. Excited to be here with you. Excited to talk to you. Hi. Before we get started, one time I am on Twitter. I'm at ZachNXT, at ZACHNXT. I will say that I made that handle when NXT was like NXT 1.0 or 5 or whatever before this one, and it was really good. So while that was never a good, per se, Twitter handle, it wasn't as bad as it is now. Should I change it? Yeah, will I? Probably not. I'll keep forgetting until I say it here, and then I won't. Usually, before we get started, we talk about stuff that's going on in WWE. I get a chance to talk about whatever's going on the other guys' shows. I try and stay away from their reviews of every show so that I can just take a couple of things from every show that maybe they wouldn't have talked about that I can kind of go off on because, you know, you maybe could make an entire show just about in your house for NXT, but you would be a better host than me. Now, not a ton going on as, you know, Sasha Banks and Naomi still aren't around. It's a little weird. A lot of talk about Sasha Banks, not a lot of talk about Naomi. It's separate point. Weird Naomi gets it's a weird lack of respect even here. That's still weird. I'm going to assume there's some talks going on there and then some frustrations, and they'll be back at some point. And that women's tag title tournament, I think, got postponed, so that's cool. Those will just be vacant for a bit because they made titles that they didn't have people for. That's an interesting move. So nothing's really happened with that, you know. This is a weird one. There were a lot of headlines that the Rock's daughter, I think Simone Johnson, who I want to say is in the Performance Center for WWE, and obviously that made headlines. She was in the picture with the gray property of a WWE shirt, which is that shirt's a weird shirt. So she was doing that, and that made some headlines, obviously because she's the Rock's daughter. And then she made some headlines because she, I guess, chose her wrestling name. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't look at it. She's going to call herself The Rock Simone Johnson, Simone The Rock Johnson. I'm not going to lie, it sounded pretty cool when I just said it. But here's the point. More than whatever she, thinks, whatever she has announced is her, wrestling name. Keep in mind, very young and sure to your career. Most people, who do the independent circuit work for a long time and all have stories about bad names they've had. And, Performance Center, you're your real name until you're going to be a character and then your name. So, whatever she chose is her name. It doesn't matter. She's The Rock's daughter. Yes, absolutely. But, I don't want to already be super into her every single move just because we're just kind of, hoping she turns out to be The Rock. I don't know. I don't think it's fair to even, be putting a spotlight on this this person yet. I think, like, a lot of people in the PC have probably said, hey, here's what my name's going to be. And Simone Johnson is The Rock's daughter. Yes, absolutely. But, like, part of The Rock's journey to WWE that they used to plug a lot, sometimes they do, is that he debuts at that Survivor Series, and he's that cheesy good guy character in the Die Rocky Die stuff. They do that a lot. But before he debuted, he worked for like a long time with a lot of seasoned guys practicing. And so, maybe give her some time before we decide whether a ring name is good. And like, maybe the first time we see her, she's not The Rock. But like, first off, I want you to keep in mind that if your only point of reference for The Rock is the Attitude Era Rock, he was not that guy before Nation of Domination. He was Ezekiel, kinda. And then he got really good. And maybe she'll do that. Maybe she'll be really good. Maybe she'll turn out to be as good as The Rock. I doubt it. He's one of the best ever. He's one of those talented wrestlers ever, and one of those charismatic wrestlers ever. Just, like, be careful with, like, already holding her up to a different standard than you would a normal performance center athlete, because I think that could help torpedo her career. First time she comes out, it's probably going to be whack, because it's NXT 2.0 probably. They do bad stuff usually down there with characters. And so let's all relax ahead of time, because I feel her coming on TV at some point, it not being The Rock, and people saying, oh my God, The Rock's daughter got none of his genetics. And like, let's relax, Let's already relax, because I can feel it. All right, listen, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk about NXT in just a minute. I do want to talk, kind of about Raw for just a second. Shout out to Kurt Hennig, Joe Hennig, who showed up in the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins pull apart thing. He was in WWE for a long time. Mr. Perfect Son. Intercontinental Champion, blah, 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 blah. And it looks like maybe he's a producer now. I don't know. But, just shout out to him. Also, shout out to Cody Rhodes. Fits really well in WWE. Shout out, because they're going to hear this. Shout out to Seth Rollins, who has had like one title match recently that, in a long time that I can remember. And all his feuds are really good and feel like main event feuds. And that's something. He's I think we focus a lot on Roman and we focus a lot on other people, and I think when we look back, it's gonna be like, wow, Seth was really, really good. I also wanted to shout out the Usos, because I don't know if the Roman Reigns like limited dates thing has already come into effect, or like they just didn't need Roman Reigns for, say, Raw, because you don't have his next challenger lined up or at all. So they essentially sent the Usos out there, who are now the Unified Tag Champions. Probably, if you're a listener for a long time, I'm a big fan of championships. I understand they decide who wins them, but I think that it's still, in most cases, pretty big deal to win a championship, at least in my head, and it's okay if you don't think so. And, those Raw and Tag Team Championships have been around a long time. The Usos have won them a long time. And RK Bro was super popular. Because RK Bro was super popular, it catapulted the Usos and RK Bro and Chad Gable and Otis a little bit into the main event, where they would not otherwise be, not based on their talent, based on how hot story was, and Randy Orton was in it. And then the Usos, after being 7-time champions, win and become the Unified Tag Champions. And listen, I get it. It's part of a story. You want them to have all the gold, even though they're not gold, and all that. But that's actually pretty cool, man. I wanted to give the Usos their roses a little bit. I've been a fan of the Usos for a long time. I thought they were a good team before they before they turned into bad guys and became, kind of what they are. I just liked them. I don't know. They were a really good team. I'm a sucker for teams that just come in as teams. Our teams never hint a breakup, never doing stuff, separately, except for, recently. It's kind of cool, and they almost always put on banger matches. Their matches with the New Day, like their match at Hell in a Cell, their tag match is one of easily the best matches on that card. They had a ton of great matches. When I think, to use the Seth Rollins thing again, when we look back, I think the Usos are a really good team. The WWE does this thing where they overhype things, and so the first thing they did is they called the Usos the greatest tag team. I forget if they said in WWE or ever. And I'm not well versed enough on tag teams to give you an answer to that. And I would say probably you could make a case for other teams other than the Usos. I will tell you, though, that if you put Jimmy and Jay in any era in wrestling, I think that they're going to absolutely do well. I think they could have adapted to anything. I think they can do any style. I think they've showed it. I think that they're good at telling stories on a microphone, and they are good at telling stories in the ring. They are a tag team. They are twins. I think they would have made a lot of money in any era. And now they are the tag team champions. So yeah, the big story is the bloodline, and Roman is the WWE and Universal Champion, and we haven't quite figured out what to call that yet. And he is going to be working maybe reduced states, and by the way, good for him, again. And so that's the big story. Who's prepped to beat Roman Reigns? They've built up Roman Reigns so well. I would also like to just point out also, in addition to Roman, through main events with Jimmy and main event Jey Uso, don't ever forget, that month run was, boy, he beat AJ Styles on a SmackDown, I think. That was something, dude. It was a fun run. Both their feuds with Roman, then coming into the bloodline. The Usos have nailed every part of this. Like, Jey Uso was a featured single star for a minute there. And, it was because he was in the feud with Roman Reigns, yes. But he also never missed. I understand he's out there with AJ Styles, and, you're probably not going to have a bad match with AJ Styles, but at the same time, he delivers every time he goes out there. Or rather, they deliver every time they go out there. And so, main event Jey Uso was kind of cool. I was kind of hoping we were going to keep going with that. Maybe we can explore that once the bloodline breaks up. But I just wanted to take a second. I know it didn't really have anything to do with anything. But I've heard people talk about it as a segment with the Usos, but I've not heard as much of... Dude, the Usos are a really good tag team. I understand that they've just been around for a long time, and so, the bloodline stuff rejuvenated them, but they've just been around. But, they're going to be in, documentaries. They're going to be best WWE tag teams ever, discussions in WWE documentaries. And I really think that, with Roman Reigns, with Kevin Owens, with certain guys, we're watching historical things that we maybe don't see through that lens yet because we're looking at it right now. The Usos don't get a lot of shine. The New Day doesn't get, a lot of shine when it's just a tag team thing. But, those dudes, I think, changed a lot of things in WWE. I think they represented tag teams as well as any team in the history of WWE has, in terms of stepping up to the plate. And never forget that there's been issues. There's been DUI issues in the past. And it seems as though, at this point, that they have straightened out and are focused and are doing some of the best work of their career. And I really just wanted to point it out. Now, talking about NXT, this is the go-home for In Your House. And so I wanted to take a look at what they have for the match card and just kind of talk about it, because not a lot happened on the go-home. We had some matches. Wesley had a match, and again, heart goes out to that dude. That's got to be one of those one of the most just shell-shocked, miserable situations anybody's ever been in wrestling. Like, your tag team partner has these allegations come out, they're just gone. Now you're by yourself, and you're just trying to figure out what to do. That's insane. So, we're just going to talk about In Your House. So, Legado del Fantasma versus the family. Tony D'Angelo and his family versus Legado and Santos Escobar. This has been interesting. I don't know. It's kind of been like, Santos Escobar to me is a pretty, I guess, normal character, in that I believe that might be part of that real guy's I don't know his name, I'm sorry, real guy's personality turned up to 11. Like, he might be a little bit prideful and have I don't know if he has a little bit of anger. I don't know if he's, if he's confident and he turns it up to 11 and he gets Santos Escobar. I do believe that. I don't know that to be true, but I see it. Tony D'Angelo is just, there's no way that's who that dude is. And here's the thing. Gimmicks, like, if you're like a newer wrestling fan, hi, welcome. It's nice to have you. But, like, wrestling is pretty cyclical. Like, we'll have serious characters, and then we'll have joke characters just based on the passage of time. And they used to do gimmick characters a lot, and they were just mid-card to low mid-card wrestlers, and, they filled a role. Now, Tony D'Angelo is actually a good wrestler and can put on really good matches, but his vignettes, when he first debuted, I remember them, were so ridiculous that when he finally debuted, people just cheered him because they couldn't believe he was real. And he's a lot of fun, honestly. Is that guy going to be NXT champion? I was about to say no, and then I thought, and it's NXT 2.0, maybe. But usually, like, is a super gimmicky character going to be your, like, world champion? We're going with this guy? No. But it's okay. Not everybody is that guy. But what Tony D'Angelo is it like a high mid-card guy? Could be a main event guy if you need him to be. Who puts on great matches, and his feuds are always ridiculous because his character's ridiculous. So, Tony D'Angelo, he's been booked pretty strong here. And I think Legado might be on their way to the main roster. This might be the start of a send-off for them. I know I call that all the time, and then I'm like a month and a half early or something. It's weird. I don't know. I'm very wrong. I'm not taking extra credit for it. I'm, in fact, very wrong on my timing. So in like 2 months, they'll be up there. But I think the family takes this one. Pretty Deadly, your NXT Tag Team Champions, versus the Creed brothers from the What Remains of Diamond Mine. So, Pretty Deadly is an interesting NXT Tag Champ duo to have, because this is a team that is there solely for you not to like them. And, like, if you have bad guy champions or champion, or bad woman champion or champions, then obviously the point is for you not to like them, right? That's the whole point. But, like, some characters only exist for everyone to hate them in such a way that when they get beat up, it's like, yeah, thank you. Exactly. Or they're built for a specific story. So in this case, Pretty Deadly seems pretty perfect. See what I did? I didn't even mean to. And that's just, whoa, just creativity just comes out. So Pretty Deadly is pretty perfect for a doesn't want to fight most of the time tag team that is not perceived as greedy, was perceived as, like, not really earning the titles in the first place. They are a tag team that nobody particularly likes, and that is important because they are the NXT Tag Team Champions, specifically for the Creed brothers to take it off of them. if we get nothing else from Diamond Mine, it will be the Creed brothers. And by the way, congratulations to Stokely Hathaway, formerly nailed it Malcolm, what was his name? Bivens. Stokely Hathaway debuted in AEW. He's now with Jade Cargill. I almost swore. Love that. That's awesome. I'm glad that he, was doing his thing in WWE, wasn't happy, and left, went somewhere where he seems really happy and seems, featured. And, God bless Roderick Strong. There were reports that he was trying to, be released, and if that's true, I wouldn't blame him. He's like one of the last NXT guys left, and he is not treated as such like most of the other ones were at all. And he's the leader of this thing where people just keep getting released. And so I feel bad. I also feel bad for the woman whose name I always forget, because she's like a new face, but I think she will be okay because you could just break her off, have her be a dominant woman, give her like a manager, and you're fine. But point is, the goal here is for the Creed brothers to win these tag titles. Now, the question is whether they're going to win them right now or if we're going to keep going with this. I don't think we're getting another title change in this show. So I think this is where we're getting it. I think the Creed brothers are going to finish this story and become the Nxt Tag Champions. Because, again, the thing I think we're going to get out of Diamond Mine, which you don't usually get, is a tag team. And I'm excited. So if they lose, I will take that as me being wrong 100%. But I do think they'll come back and do the match again. I just kind of hope they do it. But Toxic Attraction versus Caden Carter and Katana Chance, which is just such an odd name, for the NXT women's titles. JC Jane, Gigi Dolan. They're going to keep it. Caden Carter. It's weird not saying Case Catanzaro. They're not winning. There's absolutely no reason to take these titles off of Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, despite all the little bit gross stuff they do in WWE does, NXT does in showing them. And a lot of times only focusing on, dude, they're so hot, when they're actually like all could, I think, actually be interesting characters just beyond that if you gave them just time to talk. Gigi Dolan is going to be the breakout star of this group, as I've said before. JC Jane is very good. They're very good as a tag team. They're keeping these titles. Mandy Rose versus Wendy Choo for the NXT Women's title. I haven't talked about Wendy Choo a lot, because Wendy Choo's whole thing is she wears like a one-piece pajama sleep thing and a sleep mask that she puts on her forehead, and she's very sleepy. So she hits moves. It's like Orange Cassidy, but instead of hands in his pockets, it's sleepy. And God bless her. That was the person that was with Xia Li, the Mortal Kombat looking character. Same woman, very different characters. This one's probably easier to play. Not a lot of makeup and prosthetics. Shout out to her. She's very talented. She's modified moves to do it as a sleepy person, and like everything is kind of sleep based. Hopefully she gets. I think she's very talented. I think if you gave her like a character, again, rather than a gimmick, but I mean, whatever. I think she could do well. Obviously, Mandy Rose is keeping the titles. Toxic Attraction will still have all of the proverbial gold by the end of this night. We also have Cameron Grimes versus Carmelo Hayes for the NXT North American title. Two ways to think about this. I told you at the beginning of this that I think we have one title change, and I've already told you what it is, so I've ruined the suspense. Probably should have gone the other way as I'm looking at it. It's all right. You know what? Keep you informed. You could do two things here, right? Obviously, there's two combatants. You could have either win. But you could either have Carmelo Hayes win back the North American title, and then you go back to Carmelo Hayes, presumably Trick Williams as well, and he calls himself the A champion, even though he's not. And he, has a feud with, any number of people that I'm sure he would have a great feud with. And honestly, if they go with that as an option, I certainly will not be upset. The next time I talk to you, I will not be like, ugh, Carmelo Hayes is the North American champion. Again, if you've listened to this show, I love Carmelo Hayes. And if you don't, I love Carmelo Hayes. I think Braun Breaker will be the first thing you think of when NXT 2.0 is long and gone, but I think Carmelo Hayes may be the second thing you think of if you think of two things. So again, if you put a title on him, which again means a lot to me, that's a mid-card title, it's the Intercontinental title for them, but that still, that's me. It's fine if you don't feel that way, but that means something to me. But I also think if you keep it on Cameron Grimes, who you're not putting the NXT title on, it seems like anytime soon. There was a window where you could have done it. You didn't do it. It's over. Have him keep the North American title. Then Cameron Grimes goes off, defends that title. Solo Sikoa, here we go. Or rather, Carmelo Hayes can move on, have a couple feuds, and then when Braun Breaker is looking for a challenger up the road here and needs to go to the main roster, I can think of nobody better to take out good guy, meathead Braun Breaker than bad guy, cunning, smart guy Carmelo Hayes. So I think, again, I'm going to call myself out. I think I do this every week, but Braun Breaker cannot be in NXT for too terribly much longer. So I think we start the long road to Carmelo Hayes being the guy who takes out Braun Breaker, who, by the way, I think it should be, of everybody on the roster. If you're not going to let Grayson Waller do it, which I don't think you are, let's have Carmelo Hayes do it. Let's have the number 2, let's have the second prospect to come out of NXT take out the first prospect for NXT 2.0. I love it. And so, for what I think is a better story for him, I want Carmelo Hayes to lose. I don't know if he will, but I hope he does. And that's weird. I don't say that a lot, but I hope he does and that he's on the road to bigger things because he has it. He has star power. He's fantastic in the ring. He's natural on the mic. There are no weaknesses unless you want to say he's small. But like at this point, dude, like I don't know if he's even. I don't think he's small. He looks big compared to some of these folks, and if we're gonna eliminate everybody because of the size thing, then he wouldn't have made it in the first place. So I think he's on his way to being a main event guy. And then we have Braun Breaker in your main event. He's your NXT champion, inexplicably, versus Joe Gacy for Braun Breaker's NXT title. Now, this is a feud that is built a lot on kidnapping. Kidnapped Rick Steiner's dad, stole his Hall of Fame ring. Said, I'll give it back if you give it a title match. Braun Breaker said yes, and I think he threw it in a fire. And I think my first thought was that a fire wouldn't melt that ring. I don't know if that's true. Still didn't look it up. So Braun Breaker, kind of a, big meathead champion. He's angry, obviously, at Joe Gacy. I said when Joe Gacy, was this, I want a safe space and, blah, blah, blah. And, they used all of all of those, like, trigger words. I said a lot, too much, I think we can all agree, that there were flashes of good stuff in there. And I know I've said it a million times, but there were times when, like, he'd be in the ring, and they do that thing where the first combatant is in the ring, and they are waiting for the second wrestler to come out. So the lights darken, their music hits, so you see the lights. And Joe Gacy just smiled at the end of his little promo, he said, and then as the lights played, the camera stayed on him for a second, and he didn't move a muscle, and it was one of the creepiest things I'd seen in a long time. And I said, this Joe Gacy character could be interesting if he loses his GD mind. And you know what? He has. And you know what, dude? Rick Steiner got kidnapped on NXT. And the reason that I have, part of the reason anyway, that I have a podcast is because I listened to and was on a couple episodes of Simon Miller's podcast and watched him on YouTube. And he's a big wrestling is silly, but that's okay because that's one thing that makes wrestling fun guy. And you know what, dude? Kidnapping Rick Steiner, then putting his Hall of Fame ring in a fire to set up a championship match is one of the silliest things I've ever heard. If my wife said, no, for real, I want you to sit me down and explain it to me, I'd have a hard time looking her in the eyes when I did it. But I love it, have to say. Been watching it by myself for sure. Not sure how my dog feels about it. He's had to watch with me. You cool with it? You seem to watch it. Seems fine. But you know what, dude? Sometimes wrestling is silly. And frankly, I don't know if I keep doing this because it's not that I don't want to be wrong. I'm already wrong, or I feel like it's going to happen. But Braun Breaker's going to go to the main roster. And not every feud he's going to have, even if he's the guy, is going to be a serious feud. He's going to have these weird feuds. And if, he's had Dolph Ziggler, he's had Ciampa, he's had real serious ones. Yeah, let's do a silly kidnapping one. I don't care. This is all experience for Braun Breaker. This is all a good thing. And I never forget, Joe Gacy is a really, really good wrestler. And he was put into a character that was not very good at first, that he did everything he could with. And now that he is getting a chance to be a better version of the character, I think you are seeing more and more of Joe Gacy's talent come in. And I know the character is not all the way there. Trust me, I get it. But as somebody who quite literally has been watching this character since day one, dude, this is an incredible improvement. And so shout out to Joe Gacy. However, Braun Breaker does win. He keeps his NXT title. And hopefully we're on a long road again to Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, where I really want Braun Breaker's last match to be Carmelo Hayes and for Carmelo to take that NXT title, man. Maybe give Braun Breaker a bad guy run on NXT. Turn Carmelo good guy, and then do, I don't want to compare them, but do like an underdog Johnny Gargano thing with Carmelo Hayes. There's some, there's something there, I think, right? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think at ZachNXT, at ZACHNXT on Twitter. Let me know what you think of In Your House. Are you going to watch it? Are you going to watch highlights? Do you think I'm right that there's one title change and it's the Creed brothers? Do you think it's too early? You think Carmelo Hayes is going to win that North American title and I'm just dumb and that didn't make sense? Think Joe Gacy's walking out with that NXT title? If you think that, I want to hear from you at ZachNXT. If not, that's okay because you can find me here the same time next week. But for right now, I'm sad to say that's it for NXT, so that's it for me. Rhymed it, dude. Didn't even mean to. That's it for NXT. That's it for me. I have been Zachary Smith. You have been fantastic as always, and thank you for listening.